is Guild Wars. Guild Wars 1, which is still going, yes. And we were on the final straight. We were like, marching, charging along the mole or whatever it is with all the flags and ticker tape and stuff. And there was the ribbon, and then suddenly, paf, straight into a cliff, straight into a brick wall of insane difficulty. We are stuck on Eye of the North, which the Slaver's Exile dungeon, which is the game's only elite dungeon. It's about the nearest the game comes to raiding in the conventional sense.
That's fun.
Although your team is still 8, you are still allowed to take heroes and henchmen and stuff with you. And yeah, it's a very difficult place. I mean, it comes in. There's 4 different wings. You do 3 of them to get access to the 4th bit or 5th bit, or whichever. And at the end of that is this Stone Summit dwarf. They're like evil dwarf people, ritualist called Duncan the Black, who is... I don't know, there was some kind... Duncan, yes.
Duncan.
I didn't write it, I just work here. Yeah. But
Duncan.
I don't know what even the plot is. Something evil dwarf, something magic.
Kill dwarf, kill magic.
Yeah, exactly. So you got this group, the enemy faction group called the Stone Summit, who are all evil dwarves. They come in with either North, they come in dual classes, which typically most stuff doesn't in the game.
Okay.
So in the same sense that players have a sort of synergistic build of 2 different professions at the same time, so do a lot of these things. They're very difficult. They come in groups of, I think, 8 to 12.
Yeah.
And they all have resurrect skills. I think we identified about 12 to 15 different enemy types that go to make the composition of these groups of 8. And the wiki's got full documentation of what their skill bars are and how to deal with them and stuff. And pretty much, I think only 4 out of the 15 or so do not have a res.
Yeah.
Which means you're killing them and they're just coming straight back up like bubbles under wallpaper. It's an absolute nightmare. Some of them have got, I think, 4 of the particular class enemy types that come at you have reusable resurrects, which means they can just spam them during combat. You've really got to nail them and lock them down, and it's this interlocking combo of being able to crowd control them and stop their massive healing and resurrect skills, but also doing enough damage at the same time to be able to kill them in the first place, because they're all pretty resilient with each of the different classes' own survival and heal skills extremely in play. And to cap all that is a lot of these groups in this section have pop-up ghosts that join in as well when you open fire on them.
Friendly.
Yeah, and these ghosts are touch necros. They run around touch drain healthing and stuff, and it's just a nightmare. We rocked up in there. We thought, how hard can this be? We've done all right on hard mode dungeons throughout the entire rest of the Eye of the North expansion, because this is what we need to do to fill in this last what I thought would be the last progress bar. So I can see the end. The end of like 10, 12, 15 years of struggle. And it's not necessarily struggle. I have enjoyed it. Otherwise I wouldn't keep playing. But to tick the box, to mark it complete to my own satisfaction, we need to finish this dungeon. So we went in there. I think it's me, Torag and Multi, and a variety of heroes and henchmen that have usually done us very well in all the dungeons we've tried up to now. We just got absolutely face rolled. We got maybe 2 groups in before we got minus 60 out of there for just repeated deaths. It's an absolute nightmare. They're so resilient and sort of self-contained. And it's almost like an example of, how in game design the trick is not making enemies that are difficult enough, but making enemies that are easy enough to be beaten by a human opponent.
Yes.
Yeah. You have to sort of start hobbling them and giving them skill bars that aren't that great and stuff. Because if you take the brakes off and let them use the mechanics that you give to the players to the utmost of their ability, they will absolutely kick your ass. And this is an example of that. They've got an incredibly well-designed team build. They've got about 8 or 9 levels on us as players, so these creatures are all level 28 or whatever, and that means they have an appropriately scaled ability points, which then feeds into their own skills that they use. A lot of the skills in Guild Wars have a number in green in the tooltip text, and that number gets bigger the more attribute points you put into its linked attribute. But we can only cap that at about 20 points or so. Well, typically you can get about 13 or 14 points with runes and so on. These creatures are typically running around with like 25 points in the relevant skills, which means the abilities they're using on us, which are the same abilities we can use, work about twice as effectively.
That's nice.
Yeah, it really is an uphill battle. And it is really stacked against us. It is about the hardest I've ever come across in Guild Wars 1, this elite dungeon. And it is the pinnacle of the expansion content. So, that is supposed to be the hardest stuff in the game, but we're having real trouble breaking breaking the back of it. We sometimes manage to kill a group. So we've been going at this for about 3 or 4 weeks now, and it's become a bit of an obsession and a bit of a right. Well, we will do this because it'll be a shame to stop. Right, it's a sunk cost thing, isn't it? You've gotten all the way 95% of the way there. You don't want to stop and just give up then. But the last 5% has proven to be really, really hard work. So we spent a week just sort of trying our normal stuff and just charging into it and getting stomped. Then we went away and thought, right, this is the beginning of a whole new phase of Guild Wars where we're going to have to try and learn build for the task and learn skills to counter these stuff. And we went away.
The last 5 minutes.
We spent the whole week rebuilding the team, including ourselves, to do jobs that we don't normally do. I ended up with a skill bar I totally didn't understand and were not used to. It's like, imagine any normal MMO endgame raiding where you got your 20-man raid or whatever, and everyone's got their job, they are, and you've picked people from your guild who are, best at tanking and the best DPSers from the guild and so on, and put them in the roles and stuff. And then imagine one week you turn around and said, right, all of you DPS people, you can do the healing, and all you healers, you can do the tanking. Just suddenly... just swapping entirely what the role is. It's what that felt like. I had no idea about the timing and the rhythm and the flow of my skill bar, the one I've been using for, on and off for a couple of years without really changing it significantly. Suddenly having to try and move myself from domination, mesmer, DPS type stuff down to reactive crowd control and sort of removing debuffs, as it were, from my own team. And it's just a nightmare. The other two had similar problems with the sudden roles that they were trying to suddenly achieve. And this is all off the back of let's go away and look at the wiki. It's the oh god, we're stuck. Right, let's find. Lacking any kind of self-confidence in my own ability of this stuff. I've only been playing Guild Wars for 18 years or something stupid like that. I thought, right, well, let's go and find out what the experts say. So I went off to Guild Wars wiki and looked in the discussion page for the dungeon and so on, and various people talking stuff about various strategies and things. And there's one quite large block of text in there. I forget the chap's name now, but it basically laid out how he did it, and he's doing it as a single player with 7 heroes. Rather than 3 players and 5 heroes. So
he's removing the human out of it.
Well, yeah. I mean, you could. The only way to remove it further is to just send 8 heroes in and not bother playing at all. Which is, we really wish we could do at one point. But and it was all sorts of weird quirks and tricks. You'd have a team build that. It's the typical thing. You so specifically focus on killing the boss that you can't get to the boss because the stuff you have to get through to get to the boss involves different challenges. So we ran around assembling this one team build should do it all type thing, and 2 of the NPC roles would have to be picked up by 2 of us, which is difficult and tricky because the NPCs are good at timing but bad at judgment. Yeah. So the heroes and henchmen are absolutely on the nail interrupting incoming enemy casting, but are really bad at choosing which things to interrupt. It's that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So if you can build NPC heroes to be able to spam interrupts, and it doesn't matter what they hit as long as they just bring down, say, 50% of all incoming hostile spells don't get cast because the NPCs are just spamming interrupts. So it's fine. But if the enemy has one particular nuke that must not be cast, that's where you need a player to be doing it, because the player can watch the little bar charging up when you target the enemies and so on. You're much more better at judging what needs to happen when, whereas NPCs can't do that very well. So they're fast, but we're clever, and there's a different combination of roles that are then used. Oh, it's a right old nightmare. We spent about a whole week just trying this terrible build, and we didn't get anywhere. I think we had trouble getting to the dungeon with the first refinement of it. We couldn't even get to the doorway, and it was just. And we came away from the end of that. And so the week after that, we decided, right, sod this for a game of soldiers. Let's just load up our normal one-size-fits-all team build, and we'll have another go. And we got much further. I mean, we're still having trouble. Still haven't quite cracked it, but. It just shows that just suddenly trying to pick the solution off the internet doesn't necessarily help, because there's a lot more.
Never helps.
Well, there's a lot more to it than that. There's the rhythm of it, your own rotation. It's like a subconscious rhythm. Which buttons are used in what order? What targets I'm usually responsible for? I'm usually the one with all the heroes attached to me, and the other 2 are independents and don't have any heroes on them, which means they get a lot more freedom of movement. Whereas I can't really go and pull because I've got the whole team automatically follow me all the time. I could flag, but never been much good at that. So I don't know. I think for starters, the lesson there is trust your own instincts. You know, I mean, we've been playing this a long time. We know how to use our own skill bars and classes. Those skill bars and classes are not quite optimal for what we need to do for this dungeon. We need to up our game in some fashion there, but it's going to be tweaks and refinements. Maybe swap one skill in and out here and there specifically for these particular things. Not completely rebuild the entire team in an unfamiliar manner and then rock up there and just get stomped again. So it's proving to be quite challenging. I mean, just when I thought I was out, just when I thought it was nearly over. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's the problem. You never get optimistic.
Well, it's one dungeon. I mean, and they're consumable sets. They're moderate. They're not trivial in terms of cost. You have to burn skill points to actually use them, and they cost a fair bit of money. But there are sort of half-hour buffs to pretty much all the stats team-wide, which we could use. But those are the sort of thing you want to use if you feel you haven't quite got enough. Yeah. Not if you're completely barking up the wrong tree. It'd be an absolute waste to just burn.
It's the last couple of percent, not the other 98.
If it looks like what we're doing more or less works, then we start piling those on. But it's a big waste of resources to just chomp them, if you haven't got a clue what you're doing anyway. So yeah, we find ourselves now out of the entire game, we're now down to one dungeon with perhaps 4 or 5 groups of yard trash and the boss at the end, and we're having to learn those specific enemies very closely. We have beaten them. We've got 1 or 2 groups in, but it's just their continual they've got very powerful sort of chain healing keeping them going, which is going to facilitate us needing to split our damage across targets, because if we all pile our damage onto one thing, they can easily out-heal our outgoing DPS. So we need to be able to split, is what they call it. Also spiking, which is basically something that all human teams do very well if you've got voice chat, because you all just go 3, 2, 1, bang, and everyone hits their big nuke on the same target at once, and bam, it's gone. I mean, typically creatures in Guildwars don't have enough hit points to withstand all 8 players hitting their big nuke on the same target at once. It should just wipe them completely out. But then, they immediately get rezzed. And so you're having to work through a large number of one-shot rezzes plus a couple of reusable rezzes. So it's knowing which particular enemy type is the one that's going to be doing the fast rezzing and which ones you will only get... Because resurrection comes in 2 types in Guild Wars. You've got a resurrection signet type skill, which you can only use once, and then it gets recharged when you kill an enemy boss.
Okay.
Or you've got a reusable one, which is limited to certain classes, and those you just keep using them like any other spell. But only certain classes can do them. So you need to be able to identify who's got what and when, and basically start to really gain a full appreciation of what each of the enemies. It's almost like a kind of PvP arena type situation coming up. I mean, these teams of NPC enemies in there are very powerful, unfairly so. They've got boosted stats and everything, and very, very clever, interlocking, well synergizing team builds. And we're going to have to learn to beat them. Which is very much the PvP aspect of Guild Wars. Certainly, that's what it always was. Is learning the meta and trying to counter what the enemy team's doing. They're not just wandering mobs in an MMO. They're pretty much all the way through Guild Wars 1, the design of the enemies is they come in groups with interlocking skills and are designed to be thought of as a kind of PvP battle against NPCs, and that's really exaggerated in this last dungeon. So we're going to keep going. I don't want to give up. I don't want to. I felt like rage quitting a number of times. It is very frustrating, and I don't, to be honest, deal with losing very well. So perhaps there's lessons to be learned there as well. But we're going to keep at it, I think, until everyone gets utterly fed up with it, and if it turns out we just can't do it. But I'm hopeful. There's things we can try. There's the enemies we can learn, so that we become instinctively, know exactly from the name, Stone Summit Despoiler, Stone Summit Cleaver, and so on. These names mean stuff. Yeah. Each of those implies a specific skill bar, which are full of skills we'll learn and work out which are the dangerous ones and how to counter them. It is how you're supposed to play Guild Wars. We've sort of overpowered it just by face rolling our way through with just very practiced damage builds, and that might not be the thing for this. So, surprising new lease of life for Guild Wars 1. I got a feeling once we do crack this and kill that end boss, I will be taking a very long holiday from that game.
It's nice that you believe that.
Well, I don't know. There's nothing else after that.
It's nice that you believe that.
It's just PvP after that, and I've never really been that interested in PvP in Guild Wars, so... I'll be looking forward to going on holiday from it for a bit. But yeah, there you go. Guild Wars still going for quite a while longer, I imagine.
Forever. Ever and ever and ever.
Maybe. Anyway.